Didn't realize you were there. What do you say we get started? I'm Damon Young with SSVi, and I thought I would answer some of the frequently asked questions about the Tyr trigger and why I designed it the way I did and why I do what I do. So, first off, we're going to go over some design aspects. I understand that vertical triggers are all the rage. They look wicked awesome, and the problem with a vertical system on, say, a Glock is you're talking about a pivot system where the entire trigger moves on one single hinge. So when you create a vertical trigger, you've essentially created a light switch. It's going to seem like it moves far more than it should. For, say, 1911, where the trigger moves straight back, awesome. Go vertical. That's what worked for that system. I just don't think it really applies to a standard polymer type gun. Now, what I did want to do, though, is kind of cross the border and do kind of a hybrid, a little bit of each. So I knew how I wanted it to sit in the gun, and I just didn't realize the repercussions that would have for how it makes the overall trigger feel. To be totally fair, it's not like I thought it's going to look like this and then feel like this because of it. I thought I want to do this, and let's see how that goes. And once we had working models in hand, it was a jaw dropper for me. I absolutely love it. I don't push the trigger because it's got my name on it, because I'm associated with it. I haven't felt a better trigger out there, and I've felt a lot of triggers. So the way it sits in the gun, it's a slight rearward cant, not significant, but just a very slight one. And because of that, once you actuate the trigger, all your leverage is already on your side. You're not pushing past that that initial medium and midpoint of the pivot. And by the way, I'm not a good public speaker, so I'm going to be saying and stumbling over words all the time. So just if I can deal with it, like that. So because of that, the greater leverage, it feels like the trigger's a touch lighter. It feels that way. It's no lighter, and that is one of the questions I get all the time, which is, what does your trigger weigh? It's a trigger shoe in a bar. A very small amount of ounces. I don't know. That doesn't change the poundage of your gun. Springs, connectors, those are what change the weight in a Glock. What this trigger does do is, due to that greater leverage, once you hit the connector, you hit that familiar wall that we all know with Glocks, you pass through that wall with absolute butter smoothness. There's none of that typical creep you feel, and that's something that I've noticed with damn near every vertical trigger is you can't get away from that with a vertical trigger unless you do a shit ton of other trigger work. You're not going to drop in a vertical and go like, whoa, that's just glass. It's awesome. Again, that's not something that I foresaw when designing this, but I'll take it. It's how it works, and I love it. So, for instance, this is a Glock 19 with a battle comp slide, and I'll side note to the slide here for a second. This is one of the most functional, awesome permanent upgrades you can do for a Glock. If you want just a standard OEM slide, you're going to be looking close to $300. I don't know why that's just what they cost. If you want some wicked awesome slide machining, probably $300, and also refinishing. These slides ship, you think purchase price is $280. So it's a higher grade steel. The serration pattern, they've adopted the other pattern that they're known for on their battle comps. This is super freaking grippy. I love this slide. This is an awesome, not over the top loud slide, just pure function, and it's fucking awesome. So highly recommended. Battle Comp's a badass company. I would give them your business anyway. So, and do it. Now, if you pause this and then go over to their site and buy one, then it's fine. I won't even know that you did that because I'm not in your house. So, Glock 19 here, Silent Charcoal barrel. The typical way these feel. So, I designed these triggers to be more of an everyday carry / duty feel. I'm not a big fan of that whole competition. No pre-travel, no over-travel. We took some of the over-travel out, but only to a degree that I know it's still going to function safely in every model out there. I don't want to have a specific trigger for every single model gun. The medium frame trigger fits all the medium frame guns. So this is the same trigger and trigger bar setup you get for a 19, 17, 22, 23, 34, 35, you know, etc. There's 48 different Glock models in the medium frame category. So there's that familiar wall you hit as you hit the connector there. And again, those of us who shoot guns for a living, there's certain familiarities that we want to keep and maintain. You don't want to have your duty gun feel entirely different from what you get used to. You don't want this super hair thin light trigger on, you know, one side, you know, or the other. So that's the other nice thing about keeping all OEM internals, which please do. If you get this trigger, if you've done any kind of upgrading, any different, you know, ghost connector or whatever, please go back to OEM. This trigger works best with all OEM parts, springs, and connector. In fact, even on the larger 34 models, I swap out all the springs in the connector to what's common in the 17s and 19s. It just feels better. So, with that being said, you hit that familiar wall, and the part where you normally feel creep in a trigger is passing through that wall, you know, your resistance point. If it's a really good, say, trigger job, you're gonna pass on through it. Typically putting in a vertical trigger or say a Glock 34 out of the box, you hit that and then breaks. It makes that sound. And yeah, you gotta listen for it, but it's there. So, to give you a little example, you guys have probably seen other videos of it, but hit the wall, more pressure passes through. There's no slight little hiccup or catch. There's the wall. And the other benefit to being that rearward cant is the reset is extremely short. So that's that gun right there. Glock 19 Tyr trigger. And now we're gonna skip all the way up to a Signature Series 34. So these are the big bad mama jammas that I do here. And I know one thing that typically people see right off the bat is like, ooh, it's a pretty trigger, it's designed awesome. Well, if you notice, there's some common things that I do with all the big high-end guns that I do. I try to keep some sort of design flow. So that's the reason. I didn't just put some like dots and slashes. That'd be fucking cool. Well, there's that going on with all the stuff. I also widen the rear serrations on the slides and just make them overall more grabby and functional. So, like I said, with a 34, especially the connector, swap that piece of shit minus connector out. I don't know why, but their slightly lighter minus connector makes every trigger feel like fucking dog shit. It just farts the whole way through it, and it fucking, goddamn it, I hate it so much. It's personal to me. I fucking hate it. So, for instance, this gun, I've had this done now for quite a while. I could not get the trigger to feel good, and I was like, what the fuck? I've swapped triggers, I've done all sorts of different stuff, swapped all the springs, and every time I'd pull the trigger, and then it would break, and I just got to where I'm like, okay, that's just how that gun's gonna feel. Plastic guns all feel a tiny bit different. It is what it is, and this one will just feel like shit. And then, fucking 2 days ago, I remembered, oh, did I swap out the connector? No, I didn't. And now it's fucking badass. So, here we go with this one. Okay, so like I said, how they're all gonna feel different. The difference on this one is you don't have that buttery smooth pass through, you know, at the resistance point. It's just, you hit that wall and it breaks through. So on this guy, so right there's the wall, some pressure, wall, pressure, and reset. There we go with that. Sentinel magwell on this guy, HD sights on almost all my guns. I'll show you the one that I run something different. So there's that guy. Okay, so talking trigger differences and feels, this is a Glock 22C Signature Series from my buddy Vince, who does all my designing. He in fact designed my logo, and that dude, he's got a brilliant eye for that shit, and I'll put a link to his stuff in the video. So this gun, so Glock 22C, so the compensated model, and then I chopped it to take compact mags, and that's genuinely my favorite configuration setup with a 17. I've got a couple, actually they're out having other work done. But I'll take a 17, chop it, because you've got all the mass to help keep your gun level while you're shooting, and then you've got the concealability of a 19. Everyone that wants to do all that super extreme slide lightning, there's a difference that a Glock 34, I mean, there's a reason that a Glock 34 shoots easier and flatter than a 19. It's because there's a lot more mass up top. So if you can maintain some of that mass and still make it concealable, that's the way to do it. So on this gun, it's almost the polar opposite feel of the 34. So this one, you hit that wall, and there's a larger section where you pass through, but again, it's all buttery smooth. And also, my trigger jobs used to be really intensive. I would polish the shit out of everything around every edge. There would just be no hard corners, and that's what it took to get a good feeling trigger. With these now, I put them on an OEM Glock trigger bar that I don't even polish. Drop it in with all your stock internals, and this is how good it should feel right out of the box. It's pretty lucky that I've been fortunate enough to come up with a design that has eliminated a lot of the work aspect to making a trigger feel good, because it's hard to just find a drop-in trigger that just drops in and feels awesome, and I think the Tyr has nailed that. So on this guy right here, so you hit the wall, pass through, snap. So that's how that one works. And signature series all have that common Mjolnir logo, as well as the slide work and laser engraving if so desired. That's his thing right there, American Heathen. So there's that can. All right, so I've got an agency hybrid right here. So they did up a 34 slide for me, made it all super fucking wicked special with the runes I typically do on my signature series. Those guys are great guys, and I mean, it's well known from the Fatal 15 products that we've put out that we work together, we all get along. But those guys are doing the right thing for the right reasons. They're excellent guys. They want to put the best product you could possibly put, in your hands, and I support the shit out of anything they do. So, with that being said, and as far as me, of course, endorsing my own product, it's not a well, I designed it and I want to sell it, so it's the best. You're not ever gonna catch me with a personal gun without this trigger. It's for what I want out of a trigger. It feels perfect. I mean, when I got this all back from them, I did the framework, of course, but they had it all set up exactly how they set up a gun, which is phenomenal for my shooting style and what I want out of trigger feel. I still end up swapping it all back to all stock parts and my trigger. And that's not a cut on them, it's just what I prefer. And on that note, I get asked all the time, why is your trigger the best? Why should I get yours? What puts yours above anything else? I don't know. That's all personal preference. Why do you like the car you have? Is it the best car? You probably think so. Well, you'd probably recommend it too. But odds are pretty high. Most people aren't going to get what you got. And the only way I could answer what the best trigger is, buy all of them. Try all of them, and eventually you're going to see what you like the best. Is it the best trigger? Yes, for you. So that's my answer to that. There's no other way to put a personal value on something that's subjective entirely to how something feels for you. So that's my answer to that. This is another 34, but it's all set up with their stuff other than the sights. So they're magwell. I did swap out to HD sights on this. It's just what I like. It's what I'm used to. It's what I use out at work. I've got a silencer co-barrel, and of course an X300 because they're fucking rad. And that's that one. Got the little modified logo, which to be honest I'm not really happy with, and I might shit can this frame and do a different one to get something to look better. All right, one of the last ones I'm going to show you here, and hopefully it doesn't get me in trouble. It's a prototype slide here on a frame I've done, and it will hopefully be part of a bigger project of a special edition line that comes out hopefully this year. So this is another Glock 19. This frame, however, is a little bit different, or not frame, sorry, the slide, obviously, because where's the serrations? That's weird, there's no serrations. This feels pretty much like a 220 grit sandpaper. They've actually EDM machined the texturing in. They didn't do any kind of standard serrations. This is awesome. And the best part is, like, if you're out in the field and you chip a tooth, you can of course just file it down with this thing. So because it's got so many purposes doing that way. But again, so an aftermarket slide in general is going to change the feel of your trigger. The tolerances are going to be slightly different, even though they're all going to be to spec. It's a totally different kind of steel. It's a different just setup. It's not OEM. It's going to feel a little bit different. With this guy right here, so it's kind of your typical Gen 3 Glock 19 feel. Okay, so the one thing I can talk about, you've got the Haley Strategic 13 sights, and these sights are badass. This is, if I'm not using HDs, I'm putting these on a gun. These are, dude, they're fucking awesome. You need to hop on there and try them out. They're not expensive. He's got a really excellent design ethic and has a reason for everything that he does. So everything down to the width and height of sights, there is an exact reason that he does it, and to hear him talk about it, you know that he does it because he genuinely believes it and lives by what he says. So hell of a good guy. If you get the chance to take any courses from him, please do. It's highly recommended. You will learn a lot. And otherwise, Surefire XC1, awesome little drip 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 little carry light. They don't make that sound. That was me. All right, almost done. Be patient. Okay, Glock 43. I'm gonna leave the empty mag in just because I've got big stupid hands and I'd like something extra to grab on. This one's all fully decked out, also another signature series. I had some little Mandalorian accent work done, paint by Blown Deadline, and lasering by Leo Armory. And everyone thinks I do Cerakote. I don't do anything. I found one thing that's I'm moderately good at, and I stick with the other guys that have mastered one thing. I don't want to be one of those guys that does several things pretty good. I want to have one thing just fucking down and rock solid, and then find the other guys to do the same thing. So machining wise, laser wise, Cerakote, that's what I've gone for. And I've been fucked over by a lot of different Cerakoters. Apparently that's something that's extremely easy to dick up and entirely demolish guns, either warp them or make them so they don't function, like your mag releases don't push in, let alone eject a mag here, because everything's so stiff now and coated with shit that it just won't fall out. So go to someone Cerakote certified, go to someone with a very good reputation. There's a lot of guys out there that take phenomenal, beautiful pictures and their work is shit. I know this because I've dealt with them. So the 43 is the only gun that I say, oh yeah, and put this aftermarket piece inside. Because the 42s and 43s come with, I don't know, a 39-pound connector. It's something like that. Like, it takes you and your dad and his drunk friends to help you pull the trigger on, and it's ridiculous. So Ghost just came out with their, I want to say Edge Pro. I can't remember. It's the one with the over travel limiter in it, and you've got a somewhat hand fit, and it doesn't take a lot either. It's really easy to use. But that immediately makes this trigger feel smooth as shit, and you can tailor the over travel exactly how you want it. So straight out of the box, putting one of the Tyr triggers in a 43, it's going to feel significantly better, but you're still hitting that breaking point, and really, you've got to have a kickstart generator to help you, develop the strength to actuate that. So with these guys though, so here we go, and that fucking just wicked ass hashtag battle worn finish. Snap, put some pressure, snappity. Ka-tow. Look at that. God damn, that's fucking awesome. I love this gun. Ooh, good. Okay, little HDs for this little guy. They make them for those sized. And the very last thing I want to talk about is the badass M&P line. And if you guys saw all that little bit of, I don't know, a tiff that went down a couple weeks back with Smith & Wesson, it's still water under the bridge. It was a mistake on somebody's end, and it's all good now. I'm looking forward to seeing them at SHOT Show, just like you guys, if you guys go. I keep getting asked if I'm going to do a Tyr trigger for the M&P, and I'm here to officially tell you, never. No, absolutely not. And it's not because I don't want to break into that market. It's not because I don't like the Smith & Wesson M&P line. This is my personal gun. I actually did this for a client, and he traded it back for some other future work, which I love trade work. It's awesome. The simple reason is I don't think anyone out there will top what they've done for the trigger systems in the Smith & Wesson line. The trigger on this, I mean, if you are one of those guys that wants that awesome 1911 feel, the forward set sear vertical trigger is the one to get. You can't beat it. If you want that trigger feel and just a plastic gun in general, buy an M&P just to put their trigger in. In fact, I don't know how many people that have bought an M&P purely because of their trigger system. It's that good. So with this guy here, again, like I said, I'm not normally a vertical trigger guy. This is the one exception. This thing is fucking awesome. So once you hit that wall, let's see if you can tell how much actual movement happens here. Derp. Like it's so ridiculous how good this feels. Like this is now the perfect gun. And if you've got some cool machining or Cerakote done to it, then that makes it even sexier, if I might say myself. Okay, so with all that being said, all right, there goes my rifle. With all that being said, those are some of the thoughts behind the Tyr trigger, and why I've done what I've done with them. And get one. Buy a few different triggers, see what works for you, and make your gun your own. I mean, only you know what works best for you. And if SSVi is somehow involved in that, awesome, I'm proud as hell. And if it's someone else, that doesn't change a thing. It's your gun, and you're the shooter. So stay safe out there, and thanks for watching.